My wife filed for divorce the same week she became CEO, right when I thought we were finally escaping the years of struggle that had nearly broken us. People said power changes people. I always hoped she'd be the exception. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have imagined, was that the decision she made in that polished office on the 34th floor would uncover a truth that would shake both of our lives to the core, destroying everything she thought she knew about me, and everything I believed about love, sacrifice, and loyalty. And if you stay with me until the end, I'll tell you the part of the story she never expected, the part that turned our divorce into something so much bigger than broken heart. The morning my wife, Alina, became CEO should have been the happiest day of our lives. We had spent years dreaming of reaching a point where our worries would fade into the background. No more overdue bills. No more nights spent calculating if we could afford groceries until my next paycheck. Alina had worked harder than anyone I've ever known, often leaving before sunrise and returning after midnight, her eyes heavy but her spirit unbroken. I used to tease her that she kept the city lights on with how many late nights she worked. But on the morning of her appointment, when I handed her a small thermos of coffee, her favorite blend, the one she said made her nerves easier to handle, her smile didn't reach her eyes. Instead, she stared past me, distracted, as though there was something on her mind she wasn't prepared to share. I assumed it was stress. I assumed it was the weight of new responsibility. I assumed everything except the truth. She came home late that evening, still wearing the same expression, but now her hands trembled slightly. I rushed to her side, thinking she was simply exhausted. Instead, she placed an envelope on the kitchen table. She didn't look at me when she said it, three short words that felt like they sliced through the walls of our home. I want divorce, just like that. No lead-up, no explanation. I stood frozen, my thoughts scattering like broken glass. She said she'd grown apart, that she needed independence, and that our paths no longer aligned. Ironic, considering I had spent the past 5 years putting my own dreams on pause so she could chase hers. I didn't raise my voice, I didn't cry, I didn't even beg. I only asked her one question. Why now? She avoided my eyes. It's just time, she whispered, turning away. But it didn't feel like time. It felt like something she had been convinced of by someone else, by something else, by pressure or temptation or a world she never used to belong to. She moved into a corporate apartment the next day. Her clothes were gone. Her scent faded from the pillows. The silence in the apartment felt heavier than she had ever been. But what she didn't know was that a week before she filed for divorce, something else had happened, something I had kept completely to myself, something I never intended for her to find out. Something that would become the key to everything that happened next. 2 months before the divorce, I received a phone call from my doctor. The kind of call that makes the noise around you dissolve, the kind that turns your limbs cold and your mind numb. I had gone in for routine tests after fainting at work, something I joked about being caused by skipping breakfast. But the doctor wasn't laughing when he said the words serious condition, aggressive, and limited options. I hung up before he finished explaining treatment plans. I sat in my car for nearly an hour afterward, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I didn't want Alina to know, not then, not when she was so close to achieving everything she had worked for. She had sacrificed her 20s building her career, and I refused to let my diagnosis become a burden that made her second-guess her dream, so I buried the truth. I told her everything was fine. I hid the medications. I hid the appointments. I hid the fatigue that became harder and harder to disguise. When she asked why I was sleeping so early, I said I was catching up on rest. When she asked why I had become quieter, I blamed stress at work. I thought I was protecting her. But on the night she left, when she pushed the divorce papers across the table without meeting my eyes, something inside me cracked, deep and almost audible. The next weeks were a blur. Court dates, signatures, dividing belongings that once had sentiment but now felt meaningless. I stayed quiet about my condition, telling myself I'd reveal the truth after the divorce was finalized. I didn't want pity. I didn't want guilt. I didn't want her to stay because she felt responsible. But everything changed when I got a call from my lawyer. Your wife wants full separation. No ties, no communication. That hit harder than the diagnosis. A week later, I received a letter from the hospital, an urgent update. The treatment had to begin sooner than expected. The disease was progressing faster than predicted. I sat alone in my living room, holding that letter, thinking about how Alina had once held my hand during every cold moment of my life. Yet now she didn't even know my life might be ending. But destiny has a strange way of weaving truth at the most unexpected times. Because while she was trying to distance herself from me completely, she found something I had never meant for her to discover. And that discovery would flip everything upside down.